Okay. Jamie, you've got to kick us off for Sky.
Good afternoon, Graham.
Good afternoon.
There's no sugarcoating it. Results haven't been great for the last few weeks. There were audible boos on Saturday at the final whistle. When you hear that, how does that make you feel?
Well, I understand it. I think you have to, in my position, you have to look at the two levels. The first level is, of course, it's a home game, a game that we want to win. We didn't. The performance wasn't great, and we are where we are on the table. So when you look at it like that, there's no argument. You have to accept it. That's the job of in the Premier League. And then you've got to almost look at the bigger picture and look at the perspective and look at what's been happening at the club for a longer period. And it's also a result of that. It's also a result of that. We're having to deal with that. As I've said many a time before, I came here for the 40 games before I arrived. The club had conceded 80-something goals in the Premier League, scored 50. It's a minus 30 goal difference. So if you're a West Ham fan and that's what you're seeing for a period of time, then of course you're going to be upset, you're going to be frustrated. I'm the same. But at the same time, you have to also acknowledge that a week before we played probably as well as any West Ham team has played for a number of years at Anfield. The performance was really strong. We've been competitive in all the games. Against Newcastle, 1-0. It was a 50-50 game. Away at Chelsea competitive, away at Arsenal competitive. In all the games we have, we're not playing how we'd want to play, but when you look at where the games were for 40 matches, to expect a significant change, in my experience in this league, it isn't so straightforward. So you have to understand the situation, you have to accept the situation, and then you have to go, come on then, let's bring on the challenge. The players from IC have given everything. The players are in training are fantastic. I want to support them. I'll continue to do so, and we're going to take the challenge on together.
You say the players are giving everything. Nicholas Füllkrug obviously had some pretty scathing criticism for his teammates, that there was no togetherness, no cohesiveness. Half the team are doing one thing, half the team are doing another thing. Do you agree with any of what he had to say?
Well, I think sometimes you have to understand that after a game, everyone's emotional. You know, that's that, and that it should be that way. Because football is about emotion. But when you're a leader, I think you have to accept the emotion, and then you also have to look about it and think about it from a logical perspective. When you don't perform well, there's lots of things that aren't right. It can be that tactically we had some challenges. It could be that there's a baggage that we're carrying from a previous 50 matches with the expectation high at West Ham, and having to deal with the reality of the situation now. That can also play on players' minds. They're only human. So together we have to find a solution. Together we have to improve. Together we have to give our supporters something that is better than what is now. As I said, I think for 30 matches there's been improvements, but there hasn't been in terms of points and the table. And so you have to hold both perspectives, and I will do.
So do you think he was wrong in what he actually said, except that he was emotional at the end of the game? But and what he actually said, well, half the team want to score, half the team want to sit deep, they're not doing what the coach asked them to do, we need more togetherness. Is he wrong in all that?
Well, I think he wears his heart on his sleeve. I would disagree with him in some things and agree with him in others. But he's entitled to his opinion, and as a senior player, we've had lots of honest conversations, and I think for me it's better to have the conversations in private, not in public. And as a group we move forward. That's how it is. You need to be honest. You need to have to be able to say what you think. That's for sure. And then you have to think about the team as well.
Have you spoken to him this week about that interview and said that Bradley hadn't said that, went a bit over the top there, or is there no issue there?
Well, as I said, I'd rather speak to players, and whatever conversations I have with players remains private. My job is always to help the players, help them on the pitch, help them off the pitch. But the intentions are really good. Like I said, the players, I'm very supportive of them. I understand it's a really tough situation. I understand that we need to be self-critical and we need to demand more. I have to demand more for myself, and then you have to demand more from the players. But fundamentally, I want to help the players. I want to support them because I know how tough it is. I know I can zoom out and see what has happened here for 18 months with the expectation of this club. So we can implode internally and it's the end of the world, or we can support each other and go, come on, let's take this challenge on. That's how I see it.
Just finally from me, obviously, a return to the AMEX for you this week, and you have been back there once as an opposition manager before, of course. But do you feel very proud of the role that you've played in that club's history, that your name will forever be etched in their books as they wouldn't be where they are without Graham Potter?
No, I just think I have nothing but respect, nothing but love, nothing but gratitude for my time there. 3 and a bit years, fantastic people, club. I have fond memories. Obviously, I want to go there and win the weekend. But in terms of the time I had there, it's just gratitude from my perspective.
Thank you.
Charlie?
Hi Graham.
Hi.
Staying on the topic of Brighton, no win in 6 in all competitions for Brighton. So how do you assess why perhaps they haven't been playing to the standard that they've been playing sort of earlier on in the season, and where perhaps you can look to hurt them on the weekend?
Well, the Premier League is that lots of clubs will have those stats because that's how the Premier League is. They've had some really positive results. I think they had a really bad result at Nottingham Forest and responded in a really good way. They're in a bad, not a great moment now, but sometimes that can happen. They can have injuries. They can have problems with suspensions. They could be unlucky in games. The reason why that club historically have been so successful is they're able to look past the binary. You're good if you win, and if you're bad if you lose. That's why they've been so successful. So they'll be able to analyse the performance. There'll be some metrics behind what they're doing, and that'll give them the clarity that they'll make. They'll be understand. They'll get their path out of it, and that's their advantage over most football clubs. So they'll be fine. Hopefully not the weekend, but they'll be fine.
Since you've come into West Ham, one thing that you have obviously addressed is the number of goals that the club were conceding. What we've seen recently is the club are starting to concede late goals. We saw that obviously at the weekend, we saw that against Liverpool and Everton recently. I interviewed Jean-Pierre Todibo this week, and one of the things that he kind of alluded to was perhaps there is a concentration issue at the back in those late moments in matches. What would you put that down to?
Well, it's a number of factors. I mean, to go to Goodison Park, in the context of playing at Goodison Park now, is difficult. And when you're 1-0 up, you probably need a second because of how the atmosphere is there. For example, it's the last few games, and the atmosphere is very good and special for the home team. So unless you get that second goal in the Premier League, you're always vulnerable. Against Liverpool, I think we played a really good second half. We scored a deserved equaliser, and then just probably switch off a little bit. Set piece that we could do better with. And the level is McAllister cross, Van Dijk heads it in. Welcome to the Premier League. And the reality of it is you have to do everything for 90 plus minutes to get anything. Southampton was slightly different, but we're still close to winning there. But probably our performance over the 90 minutes didn't deserve anything more. But the other two, I think, suggested a little bit different. It's so complicated, is the reality. There's no easy answer, but it's something that we have to keep doing. When we came, I think the team was conceding early goals. We fixed that, and now they're late goals. So welcome to the world of Premier League football. It's like, as I said before, it's like a bad blanket. You move it up, and then your feet get cold, and you move it down, and your feet get warm, and then all of a sudden your shoulders are cold. That's a life.
One of the things I asked Jean-Pierre about in that interview was how his season has gone in his own eyes, and he did say that it has been quite a frustrating one, mostly because of injury. He did say that he's loving working with you, and he said he can't wait to show the fans the real him next season. Why do you think that perhaps it has been so difficult for him this season?
Well, again, I think injuries play a part. I think he arrived late into the pre-season. I asked somebody to make that noise, by the way, halfway through this, just to get me out of some questions. He's had injuries. The team's been full of transition. You know, the club invested quite a lot of money in the summer, but if you look at those players, how many have consistently been playing? That's been not so easy. So I've really enjoyed working with him. He'll get better as he gets fitter and fitter and fitter, because he's got some really high level quality.
And in terms of team news this weekend, have you got any fresh injuries or any players coming back?
No, Edson Alvarez still out with a back. He's just going to probably miss the game. Hopeful next week. Long-term absentees will still be there. Aaron Bissaka should be back. Should be available for the squad.
Yeah.
Hi, Graham.
Hi.
So you don't mind Nicholas Füllkrug having an honest opinion, but you just don't want him to tell us. Why is that? Because I think the fans, media, everyone would like to know what players think, and I think honesty is a good thing.
Yeah, I understand, but at the same time, we also have a responsibility to the team and the club. And you know, from my perspective, sometimes I could be honest how I really feel, but I don't think it's helpful to the players. I don't think it's helpful to the club. So we all have to be aware of our responsibilities as well.
Has that changed since you played?
No, I think it's the same. I think my reflection from when I played was, especially on the pitch, you think you've got a picture of what's happened, but you can't by definition see everything. You've got a perspective. And this is a great thing about the media, and you ask a player after the game and he'll have his opinion, but it'll be based on very little. Of course, his opinion, but in terms of what's actually happened in the game, he won't be able to see that, he won't be able to analyse that, he won't be able to have the perspective that maybe it requires to give a really in-depth answer. But the reality of it is you guys aren't bothered about that. You just want the drama. And so that, you know, I understand that.
Well, drama, but we also just want to say how it is, and I thought last week that was kind of refreshing, really. And it's happened before with other players, and I don't think it happens enough in football.
Oh, okay.
Moving on to another topic, you just mentioned there a lot of money was spent last summer. Does a lot of money need to be spent, or a lot of business need to be done this summer for you to get the team you want?
Well, as I always say, I think in any squad you have to go, okay, we're here where we are, how do we build towards getting to where we want to be? Again, it's about working together, working with the club, making good decisions, being responsible. I think in every window your responsibility is to try to improve the team, and that will continue.
Because you always have a perception of what you want to do next season in terms of how you want to play and where you want to be in terms of league position, not 17th again.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. So we have to make some decisions to be able to improve that. No one wants to be where we are now, for sure. And you know, my previous job before my previous job at Brighton was for taking a team that's fourth from bottom, and we ended up leaving a team fourth from top over a 3-year period. So it can be done. I have experience of what's required. It isn't a quick fix. It isn't a click of the fingers and everything's okay, because the reality of where you start from is the reality of where you start from, regardless of what the expectations are. And that's the challenge.
And finally, kind of on that really, you have a jewel in the crown in Jared Bowen. This summer, do you have to yourself in your own mind go, right, do I build a team around him that I want to get me to wherever you want to get to, or do you cash in on him and then get in 6 or 7 players and get you where you want to get to?
Even if I could answer that, do you think I would answer that question? Yeah, well, no, I'm not that honest. I mean, no, of course, Jared is our captain. He's fantastic. We want him to be here for the next 10 years. We want him to finish his career, enjoying his football with us, achieving everything he wants as an individual, and with a team that I think he's got a real affinity towards.
Okay.
No problem.
Cameras off, please.
And you two can start laughing at the back now, huh?